What is going on, Grinders? It's Take Your Pick'em. It's the podcast. We're back. Another edition. It's Tuesday. It's May 2nd, 2023. Pretty good slate on tap today for MLB and a couple other sports as well. So I'm excited to come on and talk to you guys, talk through a little bit of process, do a recap of yesterday, which did not go as well as we anticipated. I hope one of the lucky viewers or listeners is in the chat. I think I owe them a free week of RG Premium. If they do not have it, I will get that together with our illustrious producer, Devin Savant. So glad to be on. I want to kick this thing off. Always want to give out our winning words of wisdom. That's going to be a staple of this pod every day. And so this one is actually coming from Vince Lombardi. It looks like we're getting some football quotes, some quotes from some great football coaches, football legends. But I thought this one was good. It says it's easy to have faith in yourself and have discipline when you're a winner, when you're number one. What you've got to have is faith and discipline when you're not a winner. And that's the key, right? So nobody likes to lose. We want to win every day. But the key is, man, you've got to have that faith. You've got to have that discipline consistently. It just can't be when the wins are coming. It's got to be when things also aren't going your way. And I'll just tell you personally, things have not gone my way this season in terms of the injury bug. I feel like every pitcher that's had an injury this season, I've had them. So listen, but the process is solid. We stay true to ourselves, stay true to the game, and everything will work itself out. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go over a recap. So right now we're 1-3 right out of the gate on the season. One good pick, 3 bads. Yesterday, my play today was Weaver over 5 strikeouts. That did not materialize very well. I knew he was going to give up runs. I thought he had enough to get the case. Only finished with 3, so that ended up being awful. Luis Garcia over 17.5 pitching outs. That was another L. 8 pitches into the game, comes out of the game with an injury. Look, the sites don't count it as an L, or they don't give us any reboots or anything like that for some of the sites, so I'm not going to do that as well. So it's going on the list as an L. Luis Garcia over 17.5 pitching outs was an injury, but that's an L. Good one yesterday. Vlad Guerrero over 1.5 total bases, and all he hit was a double, so that one ended up working out. And then our most controversial play of the day was Blake Snell under 32.5 fantasy points. Listen, man, Cincinnati didn't work the count. Were not able to pick up the walks and kind of spin this thing around, turn the lineup over. So Blake Snell, I figured he would get the Ks, which is why I wasn't going to ever take the under on the Ks, but I figured he'd give up enough runs. Gave up 3, but in the end, that just wasn't enough. Blake Snell had a pretty good day against a Cincinnati team that is not that great. So we are back on tap today. And once again, this is going to be a short pod. I'm always just going to come in and kind of give you some perspective on some of my top plays of the day. And I talked about that yesterday, that, now that we've kind of got my process out of the way and some of the tools that I use, we are absolutely going to hop right in. So my favorite play of the day so far, listen, man, I really like Wander Franco, and this is across all platforms, Underdog, PrizePicks, you name it. I'm actually taking fantasy points. I'm not going to take total bases today. I'm taking fantasy points, and I'll kind of get into my rationale about that right now. So one of the main things I think you want to understand is Underdog and PrizePicks are slightly different in their scoring for hitters. So on Underdog, singles are going to be 3 points, doubles 6 points, triples 8 points, home run 10 points, a walk or a hit by pitch is 3 points, a RBI is 2 points, and a run is 2 points. So, and then a stolen base is 4. So the main difference here, and I'm going to discuss PrizePicks as well, is that walk. So on PrizePicks, the walk or a hit by pitch is 2 points, and a stolen base is 5. So we've kind of got a little swap there. Everything else is the same outside of the double is 5 points, and on Underdog, the double is 6 points. So the Underdog scoring in terms of where they land is a little bit higher. I do think I'm still going to take it. So on the Underdog today, we've got Wander Franco at 9.5 fantasy points. I think Wander's going to blow past this number. He's facing Ronzi Contreras, who's really been struggling with lefties, and I'm going to pull up some screen share and show you some data on why I really like this play. And then on PrizePicks, we've got him at 7 fantasy points. Really like him on PrizePicks today. I think that is I think that's one of the top plays on the board. And I'll just kind of discuss my style of play in terms of the sites. If I have a play that I consider to be hear me out. My favorite play of the day, usually that's going to go in almost every card. I say at least 80% plus of the entries I have will have Wander Franco over fantasy points today. And I'm going to pull up my screen share and let's talk about why that is. Now, I know if you're listening in your car or, on the way to work or something like that, I understand that you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm going to talk through it and hopefully give you some insight here. So we've got Rosie Contreras. First thing I want to talk about is him. So he's got a 20% K rate, 10% walk rate, 5.2 xFIP. And these are surface numbers. But the main thing here, when we look at the splits between lefties and righties this season, 54 plate appearances for lefties, 62 plate appearances for righties, 30% K rate to righties, 9.3% K rate to lefties. I mean, it's just god awful against lefties this season. Walk rate approaching 10%. So I really, really, really like Franco today. We look at Franco's numbers here. 247 ISO, 359 WOBA, pretty good weighted on base average, 19% K rate, only a 16% walk rate. But listen, this man makes contact 83% of the time, which is going to cut down his walk. So I really like him. I'm going to scroll. Of course, you guys know that I want to look at some pitch data. And so we've got Rosie Contreras basically topping out at 94 miles per hour in terms of his velocity. And look at Wander Franco here, folks. 91% contact rate on pitches between 92 and 94 miles per hour. This is fantastic. A whiff rate of 8.62%, 54% hard hit rate, 364 ISO, 458 WOBA. So, and the reason why I'm bringing that up, he's mostly going to see fastball and slider. This has been a really patient team this year, and with Contreras really struggling to the left side of the plate, I just think Wander Franco is a fantastic play today to get in your bills across the pick'em sites. So once again, there's an underdog projection of 9.5 fantasy points, slightly different scoring. I'm still going to side with more there. On PrizePicks, there's a fantasy projection, PrizePicks projection of 7 fantasy points. I'm going to go with the over there. One of my top plays on the day, really, really, really like Wander Franco. Next up on the list, and this one I think is going to pick up steam here across the industry. I think it's going to end up being pretty popular, and that is Joey Lucchesi at 4.5 strikeouts going against the Detroit Tigers. Now, last year, and I was very cautious about this, and I wanted to really dig in. Lucchesi only has a couple starts under his belt, so I'm not going to read too much into it in terms of his actual K rate, but what I will read into is the K rates of the Detroit Tigers. And so I want to kind of show you some contrast here, which is why I want to dig in. So last season, and this is Detroit this season, obviously, this is the year 2023. Look at these K rates to lefties. I mean, it's awful. 23% Vierling, 34.5% Riley Green, 30% Javi Baez, who was much better last year against lefties. Torkelson's at 19, Haas 29, Mickey Cabrera 35, Jonathan Scope 35, Rogers 38. Then we've got Short in limited plate appearances at 0%. But let's look at last season here. And what you'll see is the K rates were a lot better, like especially Javi Baez. He was around 20, Vierling 17. So we don't see nearly as many Ks last season. But this season, folks, like as I've already mentioned, it looks like this team is really struggling to hit lefties so far. Obviously, Lucchesi came out of the gate against the San Francisco team that was struggling against lefties and mowed them down. Obviously, his second start was not as great at 4.5. So we've got a projection of 4.5 strikeouts on Underdog and PrizePicks today. And I think it's slightly different on a site like Vivid. I think Vivid's around 4 strikeouts. And so that's if you have Vivid picks, you definitely want to get in on Vivid first. So always going to advocate if you're playing across multiple sites, take the best line available. And so right now, as long as it hasn't changed since this morning, Vivid was at 4. And so I think that's where you want to get in first. But I'm still in on the 4.5, taking the over 4.5 or more than 4.5 on those projections. Once again, these K rates are just putrid. And so we've seen Joey Lucchesi against lefties on the season, very limited plate appearances, 42% to lefties, 22% to righties. Obviously, the walk rate is up so far to righties, but I'm not worried about that a ton. But I am going to stick in with Joey Lucchesi. Really like him. That's my second play of the day. Third play of the day, I'm going to a pitcher that we haven't seen a whole lot of as well. Lucchesi, obviously, he's not new to the MLB. Obviously, we saw him in San Diego, so we pretty much know who he is, and so I'm going to trust him to get the job done here against the Detroit Tigers. But we're going to Mr. Miller, who's got an exceptional K rate so far this season, also against another high strikeout team in the Seattle Mariners. So this is another spot similar similar to Luke Weaver on yesterday, where we've got a team that's got high K rates, but I expect them to also score some runs. They've got some power here, but Miller's sitting at a 30.6% K rate, 3.78 xFIP. Obviously, the plate appearances out there, younger pitcher here, but 31% to lefties, 30% to righties. I was talking to one of my guys, Big Dog Kyle, in the prop shop. Shout out to him. MLB Live on PrizePicks is a situation where they will give us pitcher props, for either 1 through 3 innings, 1 to 2 innings, or 1 inning. And so we're going to look at Miller as well. So I do like Miller with the projection over 5.5, and that's on Underdog and PrizePicks. I like him over 5.5 today. But also we want to look at some live opportunities, because sometimes when the lines shift. So, for instance, on today, I'm just giving this one as an example. We've got Joe Ryan is sitting at 6 strikeouts for the full game. We may get him around 3.5 for the live, which is 1 through the first 3 innings. Pitchers typically pitch a little bit better, typically through the first time through the order. And so, if we can get a guy like Joe Ryan at 3.5, that may be an opportunity for us to avoid a push situation. And so I will get back to Miller. Let's talk about the push really quick. So the push is good in certain instances where, let's say, you've got a 5 flex and all your cards have all your pieces or all your picks on that particular card have won. Then you end up with this push. You're going to go down to a 5X. Similar situation on Underdog with the insurance application, where if you use that, you'll go down to the next level, which would be 6X on Underdog versus the 5X on PrizePicks. But the push isn't going to be counted as a loss. It's just going to be counted as a wash. So I actually prefer to avoid the push at all costs if I can, and try to take opportunities to win. So, for instance, Joe Ryan is an MLB Live candidate for me today. I'm going to be looking at the board. If I can get a 3.5 strikeout projection for the first 3 innings, I'm going to take that and take the over. So that's one that I really like today. All right, back to Mr. Miller. As we can see here, we've got tremendous strikeouts here on this Seattle team. 24% for Rodriguez, only 12% for France, 19% for Crawford, and 19% for Wong, who are obviously lower K guys. But in the middle here, Jared Kelenic, 32.1%, Eugenio Suarez, 29.6%, Teoscar Hernandez, 33%, Cal Raleigh, 31.5%, and Trammell, 40%. So we've got some K rates here. Once again, I love, weighting team K rates, because I do think that's important as long as they aren't hitting a particular pitch really well from a pitcher. So I really like that. One of the things that you're going to see from Mr. Miller here, really high velocity fastball, really high velocity. The man is around 98 miles per hour, pushing 99. That's his average velocity. And then take a look at, and he's mostly throwing fastball right now, similar to Spencer Strider, if you will. I'm not calling him Spencer Strider. I'm saying in terms of velocity, we've got a really high velocity pitcher. Look down at the bottom here as we've got this pulled up. And once again, if you're listening at home, I'll walk through it. Contact rates on the high velocity fastball, outside of 3 guys, everybody's under 80%. I think that's great. Whiff rates, a ton of whiff rates above 30%. And then the ISOs, we've got some pretty nice ISOs on some of these guys, like Francis at 208, Kelenic 231, Teoscar 279, Trammell 300. But all in all, they've got to hit the ball for the ISO to kick into play. And so I think we'll see Miller here able to dial up some strikeouts on today's slate. So once again, just a quick recap. My favorite play of the day, absolutely Wander Franco, over fantasy points on all pick'em sites, Underdog and PrizePicks specifically. Then we've got Mr. Joey Lucchesi with the projection on Underdog and PrizePicks at 4.5. I'm still going to take the over. Vivid, last time I checked, had him at 4 strikeouts. So we would absolutely want to get in on Vivid first. That's where we want to attack first. And then we've got Mr. Miller here at a 5.5 strikeout projection on the pick'em sites. And I want to take the over there as well. So that's going to be our 3 plays Hopefully, when we come back and visit you guys tomorrow, this slate, we would have picked up wins on all 3 plays. Thanks for joining me on the Fantasy Pick'em podcast. Come in with your pockets empty, leave with your pockets full. I'll see you tomorrow.